Hi, and welcome back to the Sprue, a miniature painting scale modeling hobby channel where we'll go beyond the Sprue and get every miniature model painted. Today we're going to tackle the Xenomorph Queen from Gale Force 9's new game, Another Glorious Day in the Core. The Queen is actually found in one of the expansions for the game called Get Away From Her, which also has a lot of other goodies in it too. This particular miniature, if it can be called that, clocks in at a cool 7 centimeters tall and looks very imposing on the table, so let's do her some justice and get to work. I love this sculpt, and with the increased size of the miniature, she's not nearly as fragile as the regular xenomorphs in the core game, which is a sigh of relief. Some of the steps in this one will be familiar from the xenomorphs video from last week, and that's because we want to keep the look of our miniatures generally in line across all the models in a given board game. To start with, when we're priming, we'll be using the same matte black primer we used before. It leaves an ultra flat finish because it's a camouflage paint and primer. Once primed, you can see just how matte the camo paint is, an effect I really like in person, but on camera it's so camouflaged that apparently my autofocus has no idea the alien queen is even there! The first thing we're going to do is to dry brush some Slanesh grey onto the model. Remember to load up your brush, then wipe off basically all the paint onto a napkin, and then apply the paint against the grain of the details on the model. This will deposit the paint on the raised edges and pick out areas where light would naturally hit and reflect off of the model. Painting black is notoriously hard, in the sense that if you put too many highlights on it, it can read as grey, which we definitely don't want. However, without any highlights or anything, you can see before with that just matte primer, it lacks any real depth to it and doesn't look realistic at all. To help with this, we're going to apply a number of layers of alternating dry brushing and washes to get some nice sci-fi hues to the Queen whilst keeping it muted and not looking like the titles of Miami Vice. Now we're looking sufficiently purple, we'll use a black wash, Null Oil in this case, to tone that down. Because we're repeating this step a number of times, if you accidentally go too heavy on the dry brush, it's really not that big a deal, because the subsequent layers will help to tone everything down. Once completely dry, I'm using a skink blue dry paint from Citadel. This is a really thick paint that you can literally flip upside down and do all sorts with, but as the name indicates, is basically only good for dry brushing. Once again, we're going for colors that give a slightly otherworldly look to them to help the Queen really seem like an alien presence on the board. And then, once again, we're going to give a coat of black wash to tone it down. Now that's dry, it's time for a last dry brush layer. This time we're going to use Skeleton Bone from Reaper's Master Series Paint series. Oh, that's a lot of series in one sentence. One of the best parts of this technique of layering dry brush and then washes is that not only does it leave a subtle effect, but it also allows for a lot of play with color choice and the order of your placement of colors. If you reverse the order in which we apply these colors, e.g. doing the white first, then a blue, then a purple, you'd have a more pronounced purple color, which would give a nice stylized look. If you choose to use greens or oranges, although probably not together, you'd be able to replicate ambient lights or different colors or fires, etc. So feel free to experiment with color choices and to bring your visions to life. After applying and then drying the last black wash, we'll tackle the base in a similar way we've done the others, by first laying down lead belcher. This should only need one coat. If you're trying to save time, you don't need to get into all the little holes and gaps in the metal base, as they'll just look like shadowed areas, and when we apply the washes, they'll basically leave the same effect anyways as if you hadn't painted those. Now, in the past, we've used black wash and one other color for the base. But this base is so big, I wanted to put a couple of colors on it to help break up some of that large silver space. As such, I'll be putting Carroburg Crimson and Dragonhof Nightshade on two opposing segments of the base, and then using Nuln Oil in the middle. I really like this effect, plus looks a bit like a French flag. Oui oui, vive la révolution! On this larger base, you can see a bit better what I mean when we're applying all the washes fairly liberally, and then I clean my brush and then wet it to wick away the excess and help to blend the colors. After applying a base rim with a Baden Black, we're leaving everything to dry prior to spraying with Testa's Dull Coat. Make sure to do this outside or in a well-ventilated area and with a respirator, respirator. With a respirator, because of the lacquer base, this product is not one we want to breathe in. And here you have it, a xenomorph queen, fit for the Palace of Versailles. I'm so happy with how she turned out, and while she dominates the board from a size perspective, she also feels cohesive color scheme-wise with her underlings in the face of the Marines. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more hobby content, and have a good one.